Hello children, I hope you are all safe and doing good. So, I welcome to our Samveda e-class for class 6th General Science. And today we will be discussing about chapter 7 and this is the second session. Chapter is getting to know plants. Children, we already discussed about the different concepts in the first sessions. So, now today we will discuss some of the important concepts in this session. So, today's objectives is the leaf, the kitchen of the plants, the parts of the leaves, the functions of leaves, root system and its functions, flower, reproductive organ of a plant. So, these are the objectives we will be discussing in this chapter. Let us recall whatever you have learned it in the session 1. So, identify the types of plants, children. Keenly you have to observe and find out which are the different types of plants you are observing in this picture. Your guess is correct, children. The first A picture says it is a herbs and the second B it is a shrubs and the third picture it is a tree. So, these are the different types of plants. It has been classified based on their size. Which type of plant are you observing in this picture, children? Keenly you have to observe, just guess it, which type of plant you are observing in this picture, climbers or creepers. So, in the previous class we have been discussed in detail about the climbers and creepers. In this picture, which type you are observing? Yes children, your guess is correct, it is a climbers. So, what are climbers, children? It takes a support of a object for the growth because of the weak stem. The next question, identify the functions of stem. By seeing the picture only you can identify, children. So, it is the movement of water from the roots to the other parts. It conducts the water and minerals from the roots to the other parts and particularly for the leaves for the preparation of food. Yes children. So, these are the previous class revisions and now we will go with the present session. So, now tell me who is right? Observe children, who is right? So, who do you think is watering their plant is correctly? Either girl or a boy. Can you guess children? Yes, it's a girl. Why the girl is correct? Because she is putting a water to a particular part which is required, the water is required to the plant, but the boy is watering to the other part of the plant. Which part you have guessed it, children? Yes, it is a root. The which part of the plant in the soil is? It's nothing but the root. It is as you all know, you have been studied the different types of system in the plant. So, one is called as a root system, another one is called as a shoot system. So, the plant that is particularly the root will be attached to the soil. So, what are roots, children? The root is a non-green part of the plant and it normally remains underground and fixes the plants in the soil. So, the major function of the root is it fixes the plant in the soil and roots are present in the soil and it is called as below the ground. You can say it is the root is always below the ground. So, to know the importance of root, so let us have an activity, children. For this you need selected two plants of the same kind. Same kind as if you are selecting a hibiscus plant, you have to select the two plants should be hibiscus, or you can also select a different other plant like rose plant you can select or any other plant available plants in your home. And open the ground and dig them off from the roots. So, their roots do not break. Plant one of them in a pot A and cut off the root from the other plant and plant it in a pot B. Water them regularly. So, pot A should have a roots and pot B should not have a root, children. Observe the plant after week. So, what you will observe? You got an idea, children. So, which pot have a healthy plant? You can see that is pot A because it is having a roots. In the pot B, because since there is no root, what happens? The water and the minerals cannot be absorbed from the soil and it cannot be sent to the leaves and there is no preparation of food. So, obviously what happens? The plant will die. So, this says about that root is very important parts of the plant body. Now we'll see the functions of root. So already you know, performing an activity that root plays an important role in the plants. We'll see the major functions of roots. Functions of root, if you take, it fixes the plant in soil and it absorbs water and minerals from the soil for the growth of the entire plant. Soil contains the minerals that have been absorbed by the roots and it is sent to the parts of the plant and binds the soil together so that it does not get washed away during a rain or a blow away by the winds, and you can say that it prevents soil erosion. So these are the major functions of root. Children, identify the difference. By seeing this picture, you can recall that in the first chapter, the germination of seeds. Do you remember, children? Yes, this is the first picture, says it's a maize and the second is a green gram. So you can see the germinations. Based on the observation in the maize and the gram, germination, the plant's roots are mainly of two types. So can you see in the maize germination, the roots how they are arise, and in the green gram it is been arise. So now based on the observation in the maize and the green gram germinations, we have two types of roots, that is called as a taproot system as well as fibrous root system. What is called as taproot system? The root that first emerged from a seed is called as a radicle, or it is called as primary root. So you have seen that germination from the seeds where the root arises, so that we call as a primary root. In taproot system, the radicle enlarges and form a prominent root we call as a taproot. From the seeds, after the germination, if you sow that seeds, so the new plants will be arises. That root which are arise from the seeds we call as a primary root. From a primary root, a prominent root is being formed, we call as a taproot, and many branches, many small branches grows from the taproot, which is called as a lateral roots. So this is, we have a primary roots, that is, and lateral roots in the taproot. What are the major functions of taproot system? Its function is to store food such as carbohydrates to reach up to a deep water in the ground, and taproot usually controls the growth and development of the lateral roots, children. And example for the taproots: radish, mango, carrot, beetroot and turnip plants have a taproot. So mainly you have to remember, it helps to store the carbohydrates. So now we'll go with the fibrous root. What are fibrous root, children? Fibrous root system consists of an extensive mass of similar size roots. So you don't differentiate between the lateral roots as well as primary roots as in the taproot. It is a clusters of roots which you are observing in the fibrous roots. So in this system, the radicle is short-lived and is replaced by a mass of the roots, and number of thin fiber like roots arise from the base of the stem. And example for the fibrous root, children: grass, sweet potatoes, onion, sugar cane, wheat and rice. So this type of plants will be having a fibrous roots. It is a clusters of, or it is also called as a mass of roots which are being present in the fibrous root. So we have been studied about the different types of roots, that is fibrous root as well as taproot. As I told, so in the taproot, so we have a primary root as well as lateral root. So if you see, observe this we call as a fibrous root. So the clusters of roots where there is no branches, so this is called as a fibrous roots, and this we call as a lateral roots. You can see it is called as a taproot system. So where primary root is there, and from the primary root you can see a branches, number of branches which arises, we call as a lateral roots, and these are the different types of roots. Now we'll see the modification of the roots. So in some plants, roots are modified to perform many other functions along with the three functions, children. Modification of roots for the storage of food: if you take the roots of the plants like carrot, beetroot, sweet potato, stores food and thus swollen and fleshy. And if you come to the other modification of root is the plants like bamboos, and banyan gives out the roots from their branches that grow downward and anchor in the soil. Such roots are called as a prop root. And then mangrove plants that grows in marshy areas develop a breathing roots that come above the water surface, and the plants like pea and beans have a small swellings on the roots called as root nodules, and this nodules contains a rhizobium bacteria that can fix the atmospheric nitrogens. Please make a note, children, the root nodules which contains a bacteria that is called as a rhizobium, which helps in the fixation of nitrogen in the atmosphere. So, these are the important modifications which takes place in the roots, and you have been studied in the previous class the modification of stems, isn't it right? About the modification of stems like tubers, tendrils and thorns. Even same thing which is applies to the roots, it is also applies to the roots, that is the prop roots, root nodules, and also to store the foods. Now we will go with the leaf. It is another part of the plant. So, it is also called as kitchen of the plant. So, by word it can think, children, why it is called as a kitchen of the plant, because it is a place where the food is being prepared. In your house, which place the food is being prepared, right? So, that is kitchen of the plant is the leaf. So, in the leaf the food is being prepared. So, what is the structure of leaf? If you say, it is a flat green part of the plant that arise from the nodes. So, remember, children, so we have been studied the parts of the stem, the nodes and internodes. The leaves have been arise from the nodes, and it's having its own branches. Now, let us look into the parts of the leaves. First part of the leaves is called as a petiole. It is a part that attach the leaf to the stem. It is called as stalk. And lamina, it is a broad flat green part of the leaves. It is also called as a leaf blade. So, different parts of the leaves if you take, so the stalk we call as petiole, and the flat surface of the leaves we call as a lamina. You can observe the next part of the leaves, you can say the midribs. It is a main or central vein of the leaves from which numerous side veins are being arises, and the side veins, these are the tiny veins that arise from either side of the midribs. The veins transport food and water and provides a support to the leaves. So, if you take up leaves, children, this is called as a petiole, and this the flat surface is called as a leaf blade or lamina, and the vein, the line which passes from the petiole to this one is called as a, it is called to the tip is called as a midrib, and small veins which have been arise from the midrib. So, these are the parts of the leaves. Now, we will see the leaf venation. So, the leaf venation is the design or the pattern made by the veins in the leaves. Pattern or the design which have been made by the veins in the leaves are called as leaf venations. So, based on the leaf venation, we have two types, children. So, which is called as a reticulate venation and parallel venation. So, what do you mean by reticulate venations? The veins form a net-like pattern on both sides of the midrib as seen in the leaves of neems, rose and pea plants. The plant leaves have reticular venations have a taproot. So, remember, children, plants which have a taproot, they have a reticulate venations. You can see the picture, and next is parallel venations. The veins runs parallel to one another as seen in the grasses and also leaves of banana plants, and the plants whose leaves have parallel venation have a fibrous roots, children. So, if you observe this, can you identify, can you recognize which type of venation is? So, yes, this is a reticulate venation. So, where it is been run with the different veins are being run, and if you come to this parallel venation, you can see a parallelly the veins have been arranged. This is called as a parallel venations. So, now we will see the functions of leaves. The main functions of green leaves is to manufacture a food by the process called as photosynthesis. So, what do you mean by photosynthesis, children? So, it is nothing but it is a process of preparing a food by a plant by using a chlorophyll, sunlight, water and minerals. So that process is called as photosynthesis. The word, if you divide, the photo means light. So the chlorophyll which is present in the leaves traps the sunlight. So why the leaves are in green in color, children? It is because a green pigment which is present in the leaves, that is called as a chlorophyll, which has the ability to trap the sunlight. And if you see this, using a carbon dioxide, as you know that we gives out a carbon dioxide and we take a oxygen which has been given by the plants, and using a carbon dioxide, water and the energy of a sunlight, it produces a food in the form of glucose. Starch, do you remember, children? Yes, it is in the form of starch, and oxygen is also released in this process. So you can see the carbon dioxide which has been given out by us, pouring a water to the soil, it absorbs and the stem will conduct the water to the leaves. Both they combine and using a sunlight and with chlorophyll pigment they produces a carbohydrates, that is either C6H12O6 are in the form, it is been stored in the form of starch and liberation of oxygen, and this oxygen are being taken by us. So this is a major function of leaves, and that is why it is called as a kitchen of the plant. And the next, to know about how whether the starch has been produced or not, so we would require a leaf, a spirit, a beaker, test tube, burner, water, a plate and iodine solution for this activity. To put a leaf in a test tube and pour a spirit to the completely over the leaf. Now put the test tube in a beaker or filled with the water. Heat the beaker till all the green color from the leaves comes out into the spirit in the test tube. Take out the leaves carefully and wash it in the water. Put it on the plate and pour some iodine solution over it. So if you use a iodine solution, what color you can expect, children? Yes, it's a blue-black color, and that indicates the presence of starch. For this experiment you should use a spirit and also the burner. It has to be done in presence of teacher. The second function of leaves, if you take, it helps in the exchange of gases. Or which part of the plant which helps in the exchange of gases, children? So there is a one part called as stomata, and this is stomata is called as a tiny pores which are present on the underneath of the, you can see a picture called as a stomata, and this stomata which helps in the exchange of gases in the plant. You can see the picture of a stomata. If you observe under microscope, this stomata, why we have been considered this exchange of gases is a function of leaves, because this tiny pores which are been present in the leaves, children. The next function of leaves is transpiration. So what is the meaning of transpiration, children? It is nothing but the extra water present in the plant is released from the stomata in the form of water vapor, and this process is called as a transpiration. So this transpiration helps in a cooling of leaves and upward transport of water from the roots to other parts of the plants. How we will say that the transpiration has been taken place? For this you can conduct an experiment by yourself. Take a potted plant and water it. Cover a leafy branch of a plant with a polythene bag. Keep this potted plant in the sunlight for few hours. Observe a tiny drops of water on the inside the polythene bags, which can be observed after 1 or 2 hours. You can see, children, and you can see a tiny droplets which are being removed from the plant body, and that process is called as a transpiration. So this is a major function of leaves. And next structure we will be studying about, that is a flower. So let us see what are the different parts of the flower. As you know, the flower is a reproductive part of the plant. Flowers different shapes, size and color, and where these flowers have been attached, they are been attached to the stem of a plant, by which the stalk called as pedicel, and some flowers smell sweet to attract insect for pollination. Let us know about the parts of the flower. Its flowers generally has 4 parts. Remember, children, the flowers will be having a 4 parts. The first part of the flower is called as sepals, or it is also called as calyx. What do you mean by sepals or the calyx? Small green leaves like structure at the base of flower that protects the flower in the bud stage. They form the outermost whole of the flower. All the other parts of the flower is being made by with the sepals. It gives a protection to other parts of the flower. You can see a green color, green leaf like structure which is arise from the leaves. The next part of the flower is a petals, or it is also called as corolla. So, the petals constitute the second part of the flower. They are brightly colored part of the flower that attracts the insect for pollination. So, the petals, different colors will be there, and because to attract the insect for the pollination is the second part of the flower. And the third part of the flower, if you take, it is called as a stamen or androeciums. It is a male part of the flower which forms a third part of the flower. So, the first one is sepals, second one is petals, and third one is stamen, or it is also called as androecium. So, it is a third part, and the stamens can vary in number. Each stamen consists of a thin long filament with a bilobed head called anther, and the pollen grains are present in the anther lobes. They contains the male sex cells. So, this you can remember, the male reproductive part of the flower is a stamen. You can see this picture and the filaments. So, it is having a filament, a stalk like structure, it is called as filament, and in anther the pollen grains are being present, and that is a male sex cells. The anther and the filaments form a stamen, and that is a third part of the flower. The next one is the pistil, or it is called as carpels. It is also called as gynoecium. It is the innermost whole of the flower, or it is the innermost part of the flower if you say, and it is a female reproductive part of a flower. It consists of three parts. A swollen portion at the base is called as ovary. The ovary extends upward and into a thin long tube like structure called as a style, and the style end in a knob like structure called as stigma, and the stigma receives the male gametes. Within the ovary lies ovaries that contains a female gametes. After the fertilization, the ovary develops into fruits and the ovule into the seeds. So, you can see it is having a three parts, childrens. The first part is called as swollen part is called as ovary, and there is a thin layer, filament like structure will be formed, and that is called as a style, and at the end of this one you will find a stigma, a knob like structure we call as a stigma which have been formed, and all this style, stigma and ovary will call as a pistil, or it is also called as a gynoecium. It is a female reproductive part of the plant. So, now we will see the parts in detail. You can see the parts of the flower. So, as I told, flower have been arises from the nodes, and also you can see the way the flowers which have been arises, or it is the stalk of the flowers where it has been attached. The green part of this one is called as a pedicel. So, you can see this, the pedicel is the stalk of the flower, and the green colored which has been protects the other parts of the flower we call as a calyx, or it is sepals. And then the petals, the second part of the flower, if you take, it is in a red color. The colors of the petals is because to attract the insects for the pollination, and the third part is called as a androecium, or it is called as a stamen. A filament, you can see the filaments, and also the yellow color which you are observing, it is anther. So, this anther consists of a pollen grains, and this pollen grains is nothing but the a male sex. If you see inside, so the inside there is the innermost part of the flower, if you take, it is a female reproductive part, and inside this the swollen, you can dissect also the inner part of the flower we call as ovary, and the filament and the lobe like structure, you can see this is called as a stigma, and this stigma which helps the way the pollen grains are been come and attached to this stigma. So, this is the different parts of the flower. Now, we will have an activity. Children, take us different flowers, and for example, the rose flower if you take, so the number and the color of the sepals, so many, and the number of petals. So, number of petals, it may be 5, it may be a 6, depending upon the which type of rose you have taken. Are the sepals joined or separate? In the rose flower it is separate, and are the petals are joined or separated? So you don't find this it has been joined. And the stamens, it is a male reproductive part, it is a free. Pistils, the female part is present or not. So you have to take a different flowers and you have to see the sepals, petals, and then pistils and stamen, whether the stamens are attached, whether the pistils are present or not. So in this, the second example you can take hibiscus, and the third example you can take jasmine. So make a list of this and complete the table, children. This is an activity you have to do. In this flowers also we have a different, so unisexual flowers and bisexual flowers. So what are unisexual flowers, children? It's nothing but only the one reproductive part will be present, either male reproductive part is present or female reproductive part is present. Example, cucumber, papaya. And bisexual flowers where the two reproductive part like female reproductive part and the male reproductive part are present, and that such flowers are called as a bisexual flowers. So and also in this we have a different types of flowers, a complete flowers and incomplete flowers. So what do you mean by complete? All the four parts of the flowers, all the four parts, which are those sepals, petals, endoecium, gynoecium, which are present, such flowers are called as a complete flowers. See, if one part of the flowers is been absent, and that is called as a incomplete flowers. So these are the different flowers, you can say bisexual, unisexual, complete flowers and incomplete flowers. And I hope you have understood, children. Let us summarize this session. So as we have been discussed, the roots are mainly of two types, that is taproot system and fibrous root system. How do you identify the taproot system and fibrous root system, children? So plant, if there is a primary root with the branches of roots called as lateral roots, you can identify it is a taproot. And another clusters or the mass of roots which you are finding, so they are called as a fibrous root. And this generally the fibrous roots have a which type of venation, children? It is a parallel venation, and the taproot system will be having a reticulate venation. And the main function of roots, if you take, the root absorbs the water and minerals from the soil. They also anchor the plant firmly in the soil, and the leaf consists of petiole, lamina, side veins and main veins. And the leaf venation is of two kinds, the parallel venation and reticular venations. A flower is a reproductive part of a plant. A complete flower has four parts. Which are the four parts, children? Sepals, petals, stamen and pistils. The male part called as stamens and the female part is called as pistils. So this is what we have been discussed in this sessions. Simple project, children, you can do by yourself. Make herbarium sheets of parts of flower and submit to the teachers, and collect the different types of leaves and identify the types of venation, and plan a visit to a nursery with your parents. Look for the plant different leaf of venations, find out the names of these plants, make a diagram of this in your notebooks. So very simple projects which you can do it from your home. So let us have a assignment. Take homework, children. So very simple homework I would like to give. It is draw the picture and label the parts of flower. So you should know the parts of flowers. And then the second question, define the following: the photosynthesis, transpiration, stomata, midrib, venation. So define the following. So you have to define. I hope you have understood. So by this we have been completed this chapter 7. Thank you, children. Myself Sudha R. I am working as an assistant science teacher in Vidya Mandir Public School, North Block, Amrutalli, Bangalore.